In 2025, as in 2024, the New York City Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs designated 2 temporary languages, Wolof and Pular Fulani. Now, while I think they're interesting languages, they are spoken by together over 50 million people in West Africa, and they don't have a lot of digital resources. What I found really interesting is the way the Office of Immigrant Affairs decides what are going to be temporary languages and some of the reflections on that. New York City has a law on multilingualism, Local Law 30, which requires that all public-facing services are provided in 10 designated languages, the languages you'd expect, like French and Spanish and Arabic, but also like Polish and Urdu. In addition to making sure that people can get services in over 100 other languages through telephonic interpretation. New York City's language law is one of the most robust in the world. It also allows for the designation of 2 temporary languages. They determine those temporary languages based on the prevalence of people who are newly arrived to the city who speak those languages. Now, this to me really speaks to the priorities of the Office of Immigrant Affairs. They are trying to make sure that people who are very, very vulnerable, arriving newly to New York City, can get information and ask questions in their language. And this really means that they're trying to protect those people who are so vulnerable and also trying to build trust in government services. The Office of Immigrant Affairs also had some reflections on how they collect that data. They think that they underrepresent the multilingualism in New York City because of the way they collect the data, which is of course really interesting to Clear Global and Translators Without Borders, because we also are interested in collecting language data of the languages people speak. They say that people who ask for services might not say that they speak the language they speak at home, but rather the lingua franca of the area they're from, partly because they don't expect services to be provided in those languages, but also because they are worried about a stigma associated with them. They might be perceived to be illiterate or uneducated, and that might make them even more vulnerable. The Office of Immigrant Affairs points out that it is really important to have information in the right language and to know what languages people speak, particularly in times of crisis or emergencies. The Office of Immigrant Affairs does a lot of things to a number of ways of trying to make sure that they are providing those services in the right languages, including working with local nonprofit organizations such as the Refugee Translation Project and the International Child Program and Clear Global Translators Without Borders. We've also really enjoyed our collaboration with the Office of Immigrant Affairs. They've written a really fascinating report on the implementation of Local Law 30. It's well worth a read. And that's what's interesting.